Hello again from Toronto Union Station. Today we're going to take a ride on train 68 from Toronto to intermediate station Brockville, Ontario, aboard Via Rail. Union Station in Toronto was opened on August 6, 1927, 95 years ago, and had extensive renovations completed between the years 2009 and 2021. In which new concourses were constructed on the east and west sides of the station to facilitate Metrolinx's GO Transit, allowing commuters to pass through the station below this center concourse in order to reach the Toronto Transit Commission subway and the Bay Street bus terminal. Today, intercity trains use Union Station under the operator Via Rail Canada, which was consolidated in 1977 from Canadian Pacific and Canadian National, who used to offer passenger services. But service cuts that were initiated by the Liberal government of 1981 and again by the Conservative government in 1990 saw the reduction of rail service across Canada and therefore a drop in passenger traffic transiting through Union Station. I'm traveling business class today, so I'll head to the business lounge now to await the journey. The Via Rail Business Lounge was opened in 2009 after it was renovated from being a staffed lunchroom for the employees at Union Station. Today it serves Via business class passengers as well as those awaiting the departure of the Canadian transcontinental train to Vancouver, which presently departs Union Station on Wednesdays and Sundays at 9:55, just 2 days a week. It's a relatively short hike from the business lounge to the Via Rail platforms. One walks through the Great Hall and then down into the concourse where all of train departures leave from. There will be an announcement made in the business lounge, and there are screens throughout Union Station advising of train times, numbers, and platforms. Passengers who are traveling economy may line up in the underground concourse behind their scheduled gate number to await boarding of their train, which usually takes place about 20 minutes prior to the train's departure. Passengers are reminded to have their tickets ready for validation, as they will be checked before they go up the escalators to board the train, and again on board the train once the train has departed. The business class seating layout is a 2-1 configuration with the 2 seats designated A, B, and the single seat designated S. The seats are comfortable, they are leather, they have a short recline and a footrest. In the seat pocket in front of you, there is a litter bag and a safety card with all the features for the train. A small table adjacent to the seat is good for storing personal items during the trip. In front of you, there is a seatback table that folds down with plenty of room for a laptop computer and your meal later on. And below your seat, there is a 110-volt AC plug. As we depart Union Station, we pass under the newly rehabilitated train shed. Now that the restoration is complete, Union Station is able to welcome intercity and commuter passengers every day of the week. Upon boarding, have your ticket ready for validation at your seat as the crew begins beverage and snack service to all passengers.
are unable to tolerate wearing a face mask are exempt from the preventive measure. Please ensure that it always covers securely your nose, mouth, and chin, including when you're talking on your phone. While you can remove your mask briefly to eat or drink, you must immediately put it back on afterwards. Any passengers who refuse to properly wear their mask will be removed from the train at the next station stop. Thank you for your cooperation. Some people travel experiences that your little vibration notice can take us while on our devices.
Crossing the Rouge River at Rouge Hill, the train comes close to Lake Ontario in what is one of my favorite views as we roll past the lake on a warm summer evening. Snacks and beverages are available for purchase on all VIA trains. Just keep in mind that if you are purchasing something, you will need to have a credit card, or you can use a VIA gift card, which you can purchase at any VIA station. If you're traveling in business class, though, you will be served a meal, and depending on time of day, they serve breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and usually a choice of 2 or 3 entrees, along with complimentary beverages.
On tonight's menu, we have 3 choices. The first choice is the Sorrento lasagna with marinara sauce, shredded Parmesan cheese. Next, we have the salmon with leek blanket, served with garlic mashed potato. And lastly, we have the roasted turkey, served with onion and face sauce, raw rice cranberry.
Our consist today is made up of 5 LRC passenger coaches, recently renovated with new seating layouts, and the locomotive is a General Motors F40PH-2D, unit number 6406, originally built in 1986 in London, Ontario, and re-equipped in the early to mid-2000s. VIA offers free Wi-Fi on board, but speeds are slow, so not much good for anything but light browsing and email. However, there is an onboard app that you can access with your smartphone where you can watch movies, TV shows, and news.
Arriving in Oshawa, last call for Oshawa.
Just 30 minutes into the journey, dinner is served, and the choice tonight is turkey, lasagna, or salmon. Here we have the turkey, along with a side of cheese and grapes, a dessert, a roll, and a beverage of your choice. Passengers traveling from the east side of the Greater Toronto Area can choose to board or disembark at Oshawa. The station is conveniently located only 30 minutes from Union Station, and there is easy parking as well as public transit available. VIA Rail LRC passenger cars are spacious and comfortable, but they're also over 40 years old. Many of them have been refurbished and will continue in service on VIA's Windsor to Quebec City corridor routes. Earlier this year, VIA Rail took delivery of its newest arrival, a full Siemens Venture train set with a Charger locomotive. The plan is to deploy up to 32 of these train sets across the corridor routes. VIA is testing and has been running trials of a Siemens Charger set between Ottawa and Montreal over the last several months.
attention please. We're now arriving at Coburg Station. This will be your last and final stop for Coburg.
As we roll into Coburg, Ontario, you can see the new station building that was built a few years ago in order to modernize the passenger experience along the line. The line is almost 160 years old now. Next to it is the old Coburg station, which has been in existence most of the time that people have been traveling the rails between Toronto and Montreal. As the train approaches Belleville, look out on the right-hand side and you will see Geddes Street Station. Built by Barry Silverthorne, his family home was inspired by a design he had as a model rail kit and was built in the inspiration of the Grand Trunk Railway Station that would have stood along this railway.
Your attention please, we're now arriving in Belleville. This will be your last and final stop for Belleville Station. Votre attention s'il vous plaît, la gare de Belleville, votre dernier appel pour Belleville. Last call Belleville, dernier appel Belleville.
The plan with the new high-frequency rail that VIA is proposing runs a new line across CP trackage, which has been abandoned for years, north of the Lakeshore line near Peterborough and Marmora, Ontario, via Ottawa. The HFR line, or high-frequency rail as it is called, has been in discussion now for years, with many government plans and studies. The only question is, will the money be invested now to build it and rejuvenate passenger rail service in southern Ontario and Quebec? Via Rail has several options when traveling between Toronto and Montreal. There's a direct route which takes about 5.5 hours and has several station stops along the lakeshore. There's also a longer route which takes up to 8 hours and travels via Ottawa. Although scenic and a way to explore a bit more of Ontario, be careful when booking that you get the train that you want and the right route. The sound of the North American train horn is iconic. But did you know, prior to radio communications, which came in around the 1960s, train whistles and horns were the only way for the engineer to convey information to other employees both on and off the train on the train's impending movement. On April 27, 2005, the Federal Railroad Administration, which enforces rail safety regulations in the U.S., published the final rule on the use of locomotive horns at highway rail grade crossings. Effective June 24, 2005, the rule requires that locomotive horns be sounded at all public grade crossings 15 to 20 seconds before the locomotive enters the crossing, but not more than 1/4 mile in advance of such a grade crossing. This established pattern for blowing train horns is 2 long, 1 short, and 1 long, sounding to be repeated as necessary until the locomotive clears the crossing. And the locomotive engineers retain the authority to vary this pattern as necessary for crossings that are in close proximity to residential neighborhoods. Also, they are allowed to sound the horn in emergency situations. As night falls, we pull into Brockville, and this is the point where the train will continue on to Montreal, and we will alight at the end of our journey today. Brockville, located at the eastern end of the Thousand Islands on the St. Lawrence River, is the point at which the Canadian National Line splits, with the eastern section continuing to Montreal, and the northbound section, which is now owned by Via Rail, heading up to Ottawa.
Your attention, please. This will be your last and final call for Brockville Station. Last call for Brockville.
Departing train 68 in Brockville, we get a look at the locomotive F40PH-2, unit 6406. The construction you see here is part of a network-wide rehabilitation of station platforms that VIA has undertaken in order to accommodate the new Siemens charger sets, expected to begin service next year. By the way, Train 68 did make up the lost time due to signals and arrived at Central Station in Montreal exactly on schedule. The train coming in the opposite direction is Train 669 from Montreal, which departed at 18:22 and is scheduled to arrive in Toronto at 23:33. Thanks for watching.